Hi there. Coming right up is a short video clip from a talk I gave to a group of professionals who at that time were looking for jobs. I apologize that in a few places the video screen will go dark for a couple of seconds. What happened was the videographer had been relying on 2 cameras, but when she cleaned out her car, she accidentally threw away one of her camera's video cards. Oops!
Dave gave me a ride, so kindly gave me a ride from the BART station today. We were just talking about newspapers. You know, back in the day, and I used to work at newspapers also, back in the day, if you worked at newspapers, you were guaranteed a job for life. Yeah, because back in the day, you know, anything could happen in the world. And in fact, the worse that the news was out there, the better the newspaper business. So you were guaranteed a job for life. Except not. Not, right? Because nobody predicted what the internet would do. So in today's world, in this economy, what matters isn't whether you believe your job to be secure. What matters is that you have inner security through mastering your own mind. Now, I know that you all are already on track. I want to get you more on track, and I want you to be able to stay on track. So turn to a person next to you right now and say, I'm on track. All right. Thank you. Long ago, once upon a time, I used to work at printed newspapers. And when I first started out, I'm from Indiana. By the way, any other Midwesterners here? Not a one. Oh, yay, hello. All right, there you go. So, being from the Midwest, I wanted to work at the Chicago Sun-Times right when I was starting out because they had an opening, and for me at that point, that was a big, important paper, and I wanted that job. So, you know, I sent them my clips, sent them my resume, my references. I made phone call after phone call. I finally got an appointment for an interview. And I was so excited. And I was so terrified because that was a big, important paper. Now, I knew if they hired me, I would do a great job because just like you, I step up. And I knew if they hired me, they'd be lucky to have me. How many of you in this room know that if someone hired you today, they would be lucky to have you because you step up? Yeah. Excellent. So I knew that. But I was terrified, and my whole body was full of fear. So we all know you should seem confident at a job interview. So my whole body was full of fear. I'm trying to push down the fear and muster up the confidence, and I go into that interview, and I don't get the job. Okay. I'm from Indiana. So then I decided to go around to these little towns in Indiana and apply at these little newspapers. Now, going to these little newspapers, I knew they would be lucky to have me. I knew I would do a fantastic job. So I didn't even bother sending in my clips. I didn't bother sending in my resume. I didn't bother making any phone calls. I would just barge right in, go up to the editor-in-chief and say, I want a job. Okay. First few places I went, they said, that's nice. We don't have any jobs. But pretty soon, I found myself in Frankfort, Indiana, little town of about 15,000 people. Had a perfectly respectable little newspaper. I went in, threw my clips in front of the editor, said, I want a job. He looked down at my clips, looked back up at me. He said, we don't have any jobs, but I like your audacity. You're hired. Nice, huh? Yeah. So a year later, I took the clips from that job and sent them to the Chicago Sun-Times. Got another interview. This time they hired me. And you know what the editor there told me? He said, when you came in a year ago, we wanted to hire you. We liked your clips, we liked your references, but you just seemed so arrogant. Arrogant? I was terrified. So here's the thing. When I was terrified but trying to act confident, I came off as arrogant. When I was truly so confident that maybe I was a little arrogant, I got the job. So what matters is that we are able to master our own minds to create genuine confidence, right? Genuine optimism. Y'all with me? Okay. So today's official title is the 5 scientific motivators to keep you on track. Okay. You know, journalists love facts, right, Dave? We love facts. We don't always get them right, but we love them. And Dave knows who else loves facts, because you do a lot of work with the Academy of Science, right? Scientists love facts. And I'm heavy into science these days. So these are going to be some scientific motivators that are all proven and tested by scientists to really work. Now, when you think of a track, I'd like you to think of a roller coaster track. How many of you have ever been on a roller coaster? Yeah. And you know, when you're on a roller coaster, it's maybe not the best time to take a nap, because that thing is going fast, right? And I only have so much time today to give you all the help I can, so I am going to go fast. So I ask you to stay with me. I'm not going to be selling anything today, but in return for my help, I just ask you to stay with me, because we're going to go fast. So no naps. And I ask you to play with me, because I'm going to request that you do some things. I'm going to request that you do some things, and there will always be a scientific reason for those things, but I might not tell you until later. So meanwhile, I just ask you to do them, okay? How many of you could commit to me right now that you'll stay with me and play with me today? Excellent. Thank you. Turn to the person next to you and say, I'm on track. We're going to start playing. See that smile? Okay. I want you to start smiling. That's right. Even if you have to force it, yeah, smile. Start smiling, start nodding your head and smiling at the same time. Nodding, smiling. Nodding, let's get that head nodding. Come on, you promised to play with me. While you're nodding, while you're smiling, also sit up, good posture, nodding, smiling, play with me, nodding, smiling, come on, play, nodding, smiling right now. Good, now while you're nodding, smiling, sitting up, good posture, reach a hand out toward me as though we could touch our fingertips. Reach a hand out toward me, yes. And now, as though you could pull me back to you, bring your hand in and land it on your heart. Yeah, relax. I promise to tell you the science later. Okay. I'm going to give you these 5 motivators. Now, in order to work, you've got to consciously practice them, right? It's not going to help you just to know about them. You've got to consciously practice them. The reason for that is something called brain plasticity. Neuroscientists have learned just over the past several decades that our brains are rewiring every single day. Every single day, our brain cell connections are remapping every single day. Now, you might not notice this, right? Because generally, every day we tend to think the same old thoughts, and we tend to do the same old things. So you might not notice because your brain's just remapping in the same old way. But if you choose to change your thinking and to change your experiences, you can direct the remapping of your brain. You can change your brain. Proven in science. All right, you're all with me. Okay. So now to the first tool, we're going to talk about learned helplessness. Learned helplessness, a term from psychology. Anybody here heard of it? Learned helplessness. All right, good. Got some science people in the room. In some parts of the world, humans domesticate elephants. And here's what's kind of sad to me, is when the elephant is just a baby, they tie that elephant to a little post with a little rope, And the elephant tries to get away. It tries, but it can't. It's just a baby. And after a while, it stops trying. Well, that baby grows up to be a 5-ton giant, and it could easily snap that little rope, but it no longer tries. That is learned helplessness. In the 1960s, they did some terrible experiments to dogs. Okay, they weren't terrible, but I love dogs. Anybody else here love dogs? Yeah. So what they did is they put the dogs in an environment that they could not escape, and they gave them painful electric shocks. Yeah, these experiments would no longer be legal today. But anyway, what they found is that pretty soon most of those dogs stopped trying to escape. And so then the scientists changed up the experiment so that if the dogs were simply to try, they could easily escape, but most of the dogs had simply stopped trying. That's learned helplessness. In experiments with humans using unpleasant noise, they've found that humans also are vulnerable to learned helplessness. Now, the good news is that they have found for humans the antidote to this. They found a way you can protect yourself from learned helplessness. This won't work for elephants, but it'll work for humans. And that is to tap into your core values. Your core values. Your core values are like a resource within you that no one can take away. And as long as you stay tapped into them, no one can break you. This is how Nelson Mandela could spend 27 years in prison and get out still strong enough to lead his country. This is how Mother Teresa could work day in and day out with the sick and the dying and never lose her own energy or optimism. You see, Nelson Mandela tapped into his core value of social justice. Mother Teresa tapped into her core values of spirituality and compassion. In a moment, I'm going to ask you all to figure out some of your core values. And the way you're going to do this is to look back over your life and see what has sprung you into action. What have you been willing to go out on a limb for? And I'll give you a personal example. That's me. Now, I was not really fighting in any war. I just borrowed that outfit from a peasant in order to clown around for the camera, but that is a real AK-47, and that there's a loaded pistol on my holster, and somewhere on me is a live grenade. I was in Nicaragua. Now, what was I doing in Nicaragua? In the 1980s, I was an international news editor for the New York Daily News. Now, at that time, some of you may remember that the United States government was funding the Contra rebels down in Nicaragua. Really? And for a long time, the United States government was denying this. And this was driving me nuts. Because no matter whatever you thought about the Contras versus the Sandinistas, what really got to me was the lying. It turns out one of my core values is the truth. That's a core value of many journalists, by the way. So they were lying, but stories would come in over the wires, clearly showing that this was the case. I would slip those stories into the newspaper. Somebody overhead would take them back out. Oh, I was getting so mad because, you see, the story was considered controversial because the State Department was denying it, even though everybody knew what was going on. So I decided to go down to Nicaragua to find out for myself. I figured then they'd have to put something in the paper. They wouldn't send me, so I took my 2-week vacation in a war zone in Nicaragua. Very, very relaxing. No, actually, it was scary. And one morning, in fact, touring this little village, there was a bunker carved out in the hill, like a, kind of a cave dwelling. And just the night before, an entire family, the parents and all their kids, had been just blown to bits when a Contra had come through and tossed in a grenade. It was scary, scary stuff. So I came back, I wrote my stories, I got into some trouble, and then soon the Iran-Contra Gate scandal broke with Ollie North and all that. And I was proven right. But the point isn't that I was right, although I was. The point is that I will go out on a limb for the truth. You see, because I am not brave. I am a wimp, but I will be brave in service of the truth.